When I booked my first Mediterranean cruise, I thought I was ready. I'd cruised the Caribbean for years and thought I knew every trick in the book. But then I took that same playbook to the Mediterranean and realized, well, I was playing the wrong sport entirely. Between the jet lag, 100-degree heat, and a port where nearly every business closed its doors at 2 p.m., I learned fast that the Mediterranean plays by its own rules, and well, they're not written in English. Hey y'all, I'm Evan with Family at Sea, where we help make every cruise unforgettable. I know how intimidating a Mediterranean cruise can feel, especially if you've only cruised in the Caribbean or Alaska. Everything about it looks familiar with the same ships and the same ports of call structure, but once you're there, it's a completely different rhythm. You're dealing with ancient cities instead of beach towns, a dozen languages, and locals who take slow mornings to Olympic levels. But that's also what makes it amazing. There's history, culture, and chaos all rolled into one, and if you go unprepared, it'll be one of the best trips you will ever take. So let's talk about what to expect, what to pack, and how to avoid learning the hard way like I did. If you're ready, I am. Let's go. Before you even think about boarding a Mediterranean cruise, you've got to get the travel logistics right. This isn't like flying to Miami the morning of the embarkation and walking straight onto the ship. Which, I'm going to be honest, I do not recommend doing that there either. But you're flying across an ocean, changing time zones, and betting that your luggage and your sanity arrive on schedule. If there's one mistake I'll never repeat, is flying in the same day my cruise departs. This is a bad idea in the Caribbean, but it's an absolutely awful idea when you're crossing the globe and multiple time zones to get there. Honestly, when it comes to the Mediterranean, I would recommend flying in at least 2 days early because the jet lag alone will knock you sideways, and you'll thank yourself for the buffer if your flight's late. I like to treat those pre-cruise days as part of the vacation. Grab some gelato in Rome, or stroll across the Barcelona waterfront, or have that first glass of wine in Athens. Getting there a couple days early means you'll board the ship relaxed instead of sleep deprived. Once your flights are squared away, you'll want to turn your attention to the one document that can ruin your trip before it even starts: your passport. It needs to be valid for at least 6 months beyond the return date, with no exceptions. Both the cruise line and border control will check, and starting soon, most travelers entering Europe will also need an online entry authorization called ETIAS. It's inexpensive and easy to complete online, and it will soon be mandatory, so get it handled early and check it off the list. I did ours, and it took about 5 minutes, and it didn't cost much at all, so it's not a big deal, but you do need to make sure you do it in advance. And please, don't roll the dice on travel insurance. A Mediterranean cruise is too expensive to risk on wishful thinking. Between potential flight delays, lost luggage, or a sudden medical issue halfway across the world, you want coverage that will protect your investment. Think of it as buying peace of mind. You hope you won't need it, but if you do, you'll be glad it's there. And now look, I know all of this might sound like extra work and added expense, but once you've taken care of these basics, the rest of your trip opens up. You'll step on board confident, covered, and ready to actually enjoy what you came for: the experience itself. Staying connected in the Mediterranean used to be a nightmare of bad Wi-Fi, overpriced roaming plans, and constant no-service screens. Thankfully, that's not really the case anymore, but you still need a plan. If you're booking local tours or private drivers, WhatsApp is the go-to communication tool across Europe. It's how guides confirm meeting points, share updates, or even send you pictures of where they're parked. So make sure you've got it downloaded and set up before you leave home, because you may need to verify your account using your US number before you go. Now, when it comes to actually staying connected in port, this is where things have completely changed. I've started using Saily, and it's honestly one of those things that not only saves you money, but it saves you a lot of stress as well. When you land somewhere new, your phone suddenly has no service, or it does, but your carrier is charging you $10 a day to use it. And the fix used to be buying a physical SIM card at the airport, which meant finding a kiosk, hoping someone speaks English, and swapping out the tiny chip inside your phone that you hoped would be compatible, but Saily skips all of that. It's an eSIM, which is basically a digital version of that chip built into most modern phones. What I love about it is that instead of hunting down a physical card, you just download the app before you leave, pick a data plan for wherever you're going, and your phone connects the second you land. So there's no lines, no guessing which SIM to buy, and no dealing with random kiosks outside train stations trying to sell you something questionable. And pricing is where it really stands out. It's significantly cheaper than most US carrier roaming plans, and you actually get a decent amount of data instead of feeling like you're rationing every Google search. And because it works across 200 destinations with regional plans, you don't have to keep switching things as you move from one country to the next. They've built in a few things that are surprisingly useful, like ad blocking that can reduce how much data you burn through, and added security features to help protect your connection while you're on public networks. So if you're looking to save money and stay connected on your next Mediterranean cruise or really any international trip, this is one of the easiest upgrades you can make. So if it sounds like it'd be helpful for you, just click the link in the description below or use the code FAMILY@SEA to get 15% off your Saily plan. And don't forget to turn off automatic updates and background syncing on your phone so you're not wasting data on things you don't need. And if you plan on using free Wi-Fi in cities, just be smart about it. Stick to reputable networks and use a VPN if you have one. A little planning here goes a long way. You stay connected when you need it, avoid the surprise charges, and spend your time navigating the city instead of fighting your phone. Packing for a Mediterranean cruise is a whole different ballgame from the Caribbean. You're not heading into a private island or a beach bar. You're walking through cathedrals, cobblestone alleys, and ancient ruins that were old before the US even existed. That means comfort, modesty, and the right gear matter more than whatever looks best in your selfies. Start with what you'll wear off the ship. Many of the most incredible sites like St. Peter's Basilica in Rome or the monasteries in Greece require covered shoulders and knees. Head, shoulders, knees, and no. A lightweight scarf or wrap works great for quick cover-ups, and it doubles as sun protection on long outdoor days. And for guys, pack a wear of lightweight pants or shorts that extend beyond your knees. You'll thank yourself when you're not turned away at the door or forced to purchase an overpriced shawl just to get inside. Your footwork matters a lot as well. This isn't the place to be breaking in new sneakers or trusting a pair of sandals that have only seen resort floors. The Mediterranean is built on hills, stone steps, and cobblestone streets that laugh at cheap flip-flops. So bring something supportive like broken-in sneakers, cushioned walking sandals, or anything you can walk 5 miles in without thinking about your feet. Bonus points for packing a small pack of blister pads as well, just in case. And don't forget the tech side of packing either. Most ships and hotels use European-style outlets, so bring a good universal adapter and a compact USB hub for charging multiple devices. I also highly recommend packing a couple of these bad boys because these portable battery banks are perfect for long port days when your phone's burning through battery from photos, GPS, and translation apps. The key is to pack smart and not heavy. The right layers, the right shoes, and a few power essentials will save you from frustration later. And let's be honest, you'll need the extra luggage space for souvenirs anyway. Exploring Mediterranean ports is nothing like the Caribbean. You're not stepping off the ship into a beach lined with souvenir huts and rum shacks. Most of these ports drop you near ancient cities or in industrial areas with narrow streets and landmarks that have seen empires rise and fall. That's the magic, but it also means you've got to plan how you'll actually get around. Cruise line excursions are convenient, but they're also pricey and tend to herd you from one attraction to the next, like you're in a field trip you didn't sign up for. If you're comfortable doing a little homework, going DIY will not only save you money, but it will provide you with a far more immersive experience as well. I've personally had a lot of success with Shore Excursions Group, and one of the things I like the most about them is their back-to-ship guarantee that not only gives you peace of mind, in addition to paying to get you back to the ship at the next port, they'll also give you an additional $1,000 for the inconvenience. If you're curious to see what they offer, I've added a link to them in the pinned comment below. For ports that aren't located in the cities themselves, like you'll find in Rome and Athens, you'll need to arrange transportation to reach the main sites. I highly recommend you figure that out before you arrive because once you're off the ship, Wi-Fi can be spotty and signage isn't always clear or in English. Google Maps is a lifesaver here, especially if you download offline maps for each city ahead of time. Drop pins for your must-see stops and where the ship is docked because you'll thank yourself later when you're wandering the streets of Istanbul and realize you don't remember if the port was in Europe or Asia. And if there's one thing to pre-book, it's the major attractions. Skip the line tickets for places like the Vatican, La Sagrada Familia, or the Acropolis sell out fast and often sometimes weeks in advance, and nothing kills a port day faster than wasting 2 hours in a line that you could have walked right past. A little preparation on the front end goes a long way. So plan smart and you'll spend more time soaking in history instead of scrolling through directions. The Mediterranean might feel familiar at first, but once you step off the ship, you are in their world. And it's one built around slower meals, smaller tips, and schedules that make no sense to anyone outside Europe. It's part of the charm, but it helps to know what you're walking into. When it comes to tipping, forget everything you know from back home because over there it works differently. You don't need to overthink it, and you definitely don't need to tip 20% like in the US. Most locals just round up the bill or leave a few euros for good service. At nicer restaurants, 5 to 10% is plenty. The one catch here is you usually can't add a tip to your credit card, so keep some cash handy if you want to leave something behind. And speaking of cash, cards are widely accepted, but small coins and bills still matter. Many cafes, taxis, and even public restrooms only take cash. The easiest and most cost-effective way to get euros is from an ATM once you're in port, but definitely do not get them from the airport or cruise ship exchange counters. They offer terrible exchange rates and all sorts of fees. Personally, guys, I recommend finding an ATM at a bank a bit further out from the port where it's less likely to have exorbitant fees, and really pay attention to how much they're charging you before you agree to the transaction. And if the credit card terminal asks whether to charge you in US dollars or the local currency, always choose the local currency. It will save you from terrible conversion rates. And then there's the rhythm of daily life. In many places, the world basically shuts down during mid-afternoon for siesta. Shops close, restaurants lock up, and locals vanish for a few hours of rest before reopening in the evening. Sundays can be quiet the entire day as well, especially outside of major tourist areas, so you definitely want to make sure you plan accordingly. And guys, look, it's not that there's anything wrong with this. If I'm honest, this is probably a healthier way to live. But it's really important that as Americans, when we go there, we just know and understand how life works there. The trick is to just roll with it. Grab a coffee, find some shade, and enjoy doing nothing at all for a bit. The Mediterranean runs on its own clock, and once you adjust to that slower pace, it stops feeling inconvenient and it starts feeling intentional. And that's when you realize you're just not supposed to rush it. Look, y'all, I'm going to be honest. For us, food is half the reason to cruise the Mediterranean, so don't waste every lunch back on the ship. You're surrounded by countries that built their identities around food. Places like Italy, Spain, Greece, and France, and each with flavors you'll remember long after the cruise ends. So I highly recommend you eat local whenever you can. The ship will still be there for dinner if you want to save money, but that little cafe tucked behind a cathedral might serve a meal that ruins cruise ship pasta forever. And guys, look, it's really easy to spot the tourist traps from a mile away. They're the places with laminated menus, pictures of spaghetti, and someone out front waving you inside. The prices there are going to be high, the food will be highly average, and the experience is going to feel staged. But walk just a few blocks away off the main strip and that energy changes. Suddenly, it's locals laughing over wine, the smell of real olive oil in the air, and menus with just a handful of options that are usually handwritten, which is always a good sign. Timing matters too. Lunch is sacred there, but it's not an all-day event. In much of Southern Europe, restaurants close between roughly 2 and 5 p.m., and dinner doesn't really get going until 8. That can feel strange at first, I know it does for us, but once you adjust, you realize it's kind of perfect, as it forces you to slow down, sip your coffee, and wander a bit before you dive into another meal that's actually worth the calories. If you're not sure where to go, skip Google Maps star ratings and just ask someone local, whether it's a shopkeeper, a taxi driver, or even your excursion guide. Locals love sharing their favorite hidden spots, and 9 times out of 10, those are the meals that end up defining your trip. The Mediterranean isn't about eating fast, it's about eating well. And once you let go of the rush, every meal starts to feel like a small celebration. Europe is generally safe, but it's also full of skilled pickpockets who've turned distraction into an art form. You don't need to be nervous, but you do want to stay sharp. Keep your valuables in places that aren't easy targets. Zippered pockets, crossbody bags, or money belts work best, especially in crowded areas like Barcelona's Las Ramblas or Rome's Trevi Fountain. If you wear a backpack, swing it to your front in tight spaces or on public transportation. Don't leave your phone on a cafe table while you're eating, because it takes about 2 seconds for someone to grab it and completely disappear. This also isn't the place to wear your $10,000 Rolex. If you want to wear a watch, a basic Seiko will do the trick without the risk. And look, there are scams. Most of them are old, but they still work because people let their guard down on vacation. The free bracelet trick is a classic where someone offers to tie a string or band on your wrist, then demands payment. But I've got a whole video with the most common scams you're going to run into, so if you're interested in that, I'll link it above. But do not confuse confidence with rudeness. Europeans are used to tourists, but they respect awareness. So be polite, make eye contact, and move with intention, because most of the time that alone is enough to signal you're not easy prey. A Mediterranean cruise is packed with moments you'll want to remember for the right reasons, with sunsets, food, and history, and you don't want to be the reason you remember it because it was the day someone made off with your wallet. So stay aware, stay calm, and enjoy it all without constantly looking over your shoulder. After everything you've seen in port, it's easy to forget the ship itself still plays a big role in how your Mediterranean cruise feels. The cities are without a doubt what you'll remember most, but the way you rest and reset and prepare for what's ahead while on board can just as easily determine how the trip itself unfolds. Mediterranean cruises are action-packed with very few port days. You have early mornings, long excursions, and a level of walking your smartwatch probably isn't ready for. If you don't build in recovery time, you'll burn out before you ever hit your last port. So give yourself a couple mornings to sleep in, order room service and drink coffee on the balcony, and watch the sunset from the deck without worrying about catching the show. You don't need to chase every bit of entertainment to get your money's worth, because sometimes the most memorable part of a cruise is when you finally slow down long enough to realize just how good it feels to do nothing. And one more thing, guys. If you're loving the experience and you're already thinking about your next trip, be sure to stop by the Future Cruise desk before you disembark. Simply putting down a deposit on a future cruise while you're still on board can lock in lower deposits and get you some bonus onboard credit as well. You don't even have to pick a ship or a date yet on most cruise lines. You just grab the offer so you've got options later. And maybe the most important tip of them all, go into the trip with no expectations and a commitment to keeping the right mindset from start to finish. Even with as many cruises as we've been on, we've still yet to go on the perfect cruise. Something will go wrong at some point, whether it's an excursion that could have gone better, a cold entree at dinner, or even a canceled port. But don't let those moments wreck your entire trip. The Mediterranean has its own rhythm, and part of enjoying it is learning to roll with whatever happens. Perfection isn't the goal, perspective is. So laugh it off when something goes wrong, make the best of it, and you'll come home with better stories anyway. Because a great cruise isn't one where everything goes right, it's the one where you enjoy it even when it doesn't. But not for the bad news. The Mediterranean might be packed with incredible ports, but that doesn't mean that every excursion's worth your time or money. The good news though, planning the right ones can turn a good cruise into an unforgettable one. So don't stop here, come hang out with me in the next video where I'll show you how to plan the perfect Mediterranean excursions without wasting a single port day. If you're ready, I am. Let's go.